Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We begin in Nigeria, where the Lagos and Ogun state governments have announced the ban of all high-density gatherings that will bring together 50 or more persons in the same place. This includes social clubs, halls, cinemas, nightclubs, restaurants, sports arenas, churches, and mosques. Also, schools are to be shut from Monday in Lagos. Meanwhile, the Lagos state government says it is taking measures to trace all those who have been in contact with the new cases. Arise News senior correspondent Tokunbo Onyetuji has the story.
It is the first time since the discovery of the case in Nigeria and the daily update by the Lagos government that state officials will be announcing a confirmation of more than one case of the novel coronavirus. So the session is straight to business, confirming that it is not time yet to celebrate the seeming success of curtailing the spread of the disease in the states.
Yesterday we received 4 samples that tested positive. The first 2 samples belong to a Nigerian mother and her 6-week-old baby. They had been in the United States and they returned to Lagos on the 8th of March on a Virgin Atlantic flight, VS 411. And the mother developed symptoms, and mother and child were tested, and both of them were tested positive.
Among the new confirmed cases is that of an American who reportedly came into the country through the Nigerian-Benin Republic land border.
He also was tested yesterday and tested positive. So he will be admitted at the mainland hospital.
Admission of the 4 new cases at the Yaba facility is being perfected as officials express optimism that the mechanism in place is good enough to meet the growing need for contact tracing and monitoring of the self-isolation process of people with symptoms.
Each of these categories has initiated what we call line listing or contact tracing, and that process is ongoing. And we're first starting with members of their families and extending it to any possible person that they may have come into contact with, and including identifying the airline manifest of those airline travelers so that we can initiate contact with passengers on that flight.
Officials are now appealing for calm and understanding of the people on basic precautionary measures to stop the spread of the virus.
You asked about self-isolation. It's not a robust science. It is a recommendation, and it is based on people responding in a civil manner and understanding their civil responsibility to society.
And we don't have to panic. We have to realize that Sanwo-Olu administration is on top of this and is doing everything possible to ensure that we all fight this battle together.
Though there are now a few more cases to handle, with the possibility of more, the Lagos government is assuring that the state's biosecurity is not in any way threatened, but call for vigilance to win the immediate battle against the novel coronavirus. Tokunbo Onyetuji, Arise News, Lagos.
It's reassuring to see state governments taking the necessary precautions. You have Lagos, Ogun, and the Northwest governors saying that schools should be closed, and then this situation of trying to control the numbers, because obviously social distancing is really important. But what is really alarming to me, you know, is this new case, or the 2 new cases, of the mother and her 6-week-old baby. That's the youngest patient that we have in Nigeria. Yoruba people, to congratulate you after you've delivered, Ekuo Wolomi. You're constantly washing your hands. How on earth could she have contracted the virus? So it just goes to show that it's beyond hand hygiene. Somebody might have coughed around her. This is really the crucial point. There's only so much you can do as an individual. Really, you have to sort of isolate yourself. Somebody could have coughed around her. She could have opened a door. Even though you're washing your hands constantly, this still has happened. That, for me, is the most shocking thing.
It's very touching. But, I mean, let's say this. What a difference 24 hours can make. Yesterday morning, when we were on this program, we were all very anxious and concerned that the Nigerian authorities were not moving fast enough, that they were not preparing for the worst. And we were saying yesterday, all three of us, and even other anchors that came on the program, that Nigeria should address this problem with a sense of urgency. But a few hours after we left the set, we had the information that the Nigerian government had now taken the additional step of banning flights from 13 countries. I think that should be commended, high-risk countries. But the Nigerian government should also take the further precaution of ensuring that, yes, although flights have been banned from these countries, but that the important thing is to check the travel history of anybody that is coming into Nigeria. Because you will find, in some cases, that someone coming from any of these high-risk countries can come in through Ghana, can come in through Niger, can come in through any of the countries that is not on the list. I think it's important to point that out. Also, the federal government has taken the step to ban all sporting activities and participation in any kind of international tournament, including preparation for the International Olympics, at least for the next 1 month. In addition to suspending the National Sports Festival, in addition to suspending NYSC orientation camps until further notice, I think these are very good steps. And the state governments all of a sudden woke up. Hitherto, we were talking about the proactiveness of Lagos state government. But yesterday, every state came out of the woods. All the northern governors met, which is most unusual for them, to act very quickly. But maybe perhaps because a case was reported in Katsina. One of the 5 additional cases came from Katsina. So they met, and all schools in northern Nigeria are to be shut down. Ogun State has also taken the decision to shut down schools. Lagos State has said schools should not only shut down, even religious gatherings of persons more than 50 should no longer take place in Lagos. Now, I understand that the Christian Association of Nigeria has been saying, well, this is about our right to religious worship and whatever. Look, I think maybe those pastors are more concerned about tithes. If they are more concerned, they should go to court. And in court, they will be told that the government of Nigeria has a responsibility to take certain decisions for the protection of public health and public safety. And coronavirus, as you have seen it, is a pestilence. It's a plague. Kwara State has also shut down schools beginning from Monday. So I think the fact that other states are showing up, and there is a general concern now, across the country, better sensitization. This morning, I was listening to some jingles in pidgin language, because we have been saying our market women are aware, our ordinary people are aware. So we should disseminate the information, in local languages. In Italy, they had their worst case overnight, 475 cases in 1 day. So it's a serious problem. Leila, I'm sure you agree with me.
I completely do.
You came this morning with sanitizers and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
And you became a nurse.
Let me let our audience know that we have antibacterial wipes, all of our handles, and we are doing our very best. But what I will say is, while I am very impressed with the reaction from a lot of states, one state in particular that I'm quite worried about and not really impressed with is actually my state's Oyo State. Because yesterday, first of all, PDP held a rally in the state. The Ekiti state government have come out with a press statement letting us know that a patient that tested positive for COVID-19 was in Oyo State in Ibadan for 2 weeks. So at the end of the day, I would have expected a way quicker reaction from the governor, and really and truly, I'm quite disappointed in that. The fact that right now as well, we don't also have news in front of us to hear that maybe Oyo State has banned schools as well is quite disappointing, considering they may be a hotbed. So that's one state that I will point out as, But anyway, we do have to go on a quick break. And when we're back, our business analyst, Rotus Odiri, will be here with the headlines. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now for the latest in the business world is Rotus Odiri, our business analyst. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. So yes, the latest in the business world that's making headlines is, of course, the pump price for PMS, Premium Motor Spirit. So our Minister of State for Petroleum, Mr. Timipre Silva, made a presentation at the Federal Executive Council meeting, which was just yesterday on Wednesday. It's a weekly meeting every Wednesday. And Minister Silva made the case that because crude oil prices are where they are right now, I think they climbed a little bit yesterday, but it's about $27, $28 per barrel. Our own blend of Bonny Light isn't faring so well either. That's also in the $20 range as well. Based on where prices are, the expected open market price, the EOMP of fuel, has come down. And so because of where prices are now, the federal government feels that they can reduce the pump price from 145 to 125 naira per litre. And so there was a tweet out by the PPPRA, Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, sent out a tweet stating that they have reviewed downward the price of fuel. Effective today, effective the 19th of March, they put out a statement. In that statement, they said that going forward, they're going to be setting a guide on the 1st of every month, effective April 1st, which is April Fool's Day, but effective April 1st, and the beginning of every single month after that, they will be putting a guide to what price the expected open market price of fuel is, and then, of course, you can derive the ex-depot price from there. Now, they did note in their statement that, while what the government has announced is commendable, the current stock of fuel was purchased in January and February. At that time, the EOMP, the expected open market price in January, was 175 naira per litre, and February was 156. So there's going to be a loss there if you think of how much they spent to buy it then and to sell it at 125 now. So it's more disposable income for us, but is it fully deregulated? I mean, the language suggests that they will be looking at crude oil prices to give them a guide, but the oil marketers are not particularly sure if it's a full-on deregulation because it wasn't exactly announced. It's the PPRA that's going to be guiding things. So, for us, we're just waiting to see when the price falls and how things go forward from here, essentially.
Well, some confusion there. I mean, yes, it's good because so many Nigerians had asked that if the spot price of the Brent crude or finished products go down, then, of course, that should be reflected in terms of the market realities. But over the years, we've seen over-regulation of the downstream sector on the part of government, creating a situation whereby whatever, relief that the end consumer is supposed to get, it doesn't really get there.
Right.
Now, the key issue here is the original announcement was made by NNPC and the Minister of State for Petroleum.
Yes.
I mean, I thought that the original announcement should have been made by the regulator, which is the PPPRA. And when the PPRA came on and issued its statement, it was more or less echoing what the ministry and NNPC has said. NNPC is a retailer, okay? And the statement by NNPC is talking about, its own depots, retail spots.
Around the country.
Right. So how about other retailers? How about dealers? Is there any adjustment for that? We don't seem to have clarity on that. Yeah. That's one issue. The second issue is in terms of deregulation of the downstream sector, which a lot of Nigerians have been asking for. Neither of all the three statements, none went as far to say that government is deregulating and removing subsidy. Fuel subsidy being a major problem. In 2019, 700 billion naira alone was spent on what they call under recovery.
Right.
Now, maybe technically, the crisis in the international market may have removed that subsidy. But will government seize the opportunity to go a step further? In 2016, when oil prices went down to $30, now many Nigerians thought this was a good opportunity for government to deregulate. Right. The government did not do it. So what they have done now, yes, maybe just to a populist thing, but we will get the retest. We will get the retest when oil prices recover, as they will. Because oil prices can be volatile. Yes, the effect of coronavirus is not going to be permanent. No. So there are policy indications that we have not yet seen. So this may be just pandering to popular expectations.
We have to say. And then, of course, there's the back and forth between Russia and Saudi Arabia to see who blinks first. That should keep prices low for a while. But as you said, it's volatile and it could climb, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rotus.
So we'll take a short break at this point, and we'll be back with sports headlines. Please stay with us.
Welcome welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is our sports analyst, Aaron Akerijola, for the latest in the world of sports. Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, Doctor. How are you?
Good morning, Tunde. You're looking chic this morning.
Thank you.
And
I was waiting for that.
okay, and this morning, or yesterday evening, the news finally came, one that has been expected, and quite a lot of people have been putting pressure on the Nigeria Football Federation to suspend matches, just like how most federations, as a matter of fact, across the world have actually suspended matches, save Australia, who are still defiant, and Turkey. We'll be talking about Turkey in a moment, but save Australia and Turkey, who are still defiant and insisting that football matches will still go on. The Nigeria Football Federation have suspended matches for the next 4 weeks, and they said that the only football-related activity that will be going on in that particular space of time will be the investigation into the ill-fated death of the National United player Martins. So let's see what actually becomes of that one, because that's actually very pivotal when the league actually returns, so that we have safety measures to actually mitigate against such deaths. And also, because the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports also released a communique yesterday, all right, to that effect, that major sporting activities in Nigeria, as a matter of fact, all sporting activities in Nigeria are also suspended. So at the moment, we're at that particular point. But since we've spoken about that, debate is still on at the moment. Like we said, Australia are still insistent that their football league will go on. Same as Turkey. And at the moment, we have a Nigerian player, former captain of the Super Eagles, caught in the crossfire. John Mikel Obi, we all know him, a superstar, played for Chelsea for 10 years and moved to Trabzonspor in the Turkish league. And he criticized the league and criticized the club for the insistence to go on. Of course, the Trabzonspor team are one of those teams pushing hard to ensure the league continues, because they are top of the league and they stand to benefit more. If the league finishes this way, that will mean that they'll be winning a very, very rare title for themselves. But John Mikel Obi has come out and said that we should always prioritize health over sentiments in football. And as it was, the club decided, by their own statement, they cut him loose, but by their own statement, insisted that it was by mutual consent, and that would mean that he leaving the club without any kind of compensation, without any kind of package, any kind of wage package whatsoever. At the moment, he has left and he's gone to be with his family, because he's actually with his Russian wife at the moment, and he says he has no regret whatsoever, that he did the right thing, and he believes at the moment, while the world is trying to still come to terms with what is happening and trying to take precaution to ensure this thing does not spread.
Quick comments. First on Mikel Obi, I think what he's done may look like an act of dissent. That's how he's been interpreted by Turkish football authorities and by his club. And that was why they decided to terminate his contract, although they say it's by mutual consent.
Yeah, most definitely.
However, what he has done, in our view, is an act of bravery. He says, for example, that there is more to life than football. And I think that that's a very strong point, because the Turkish authorities have stubbornly refused. First, to do closed-door sessions. Later, they agreed. And then, secondly, to stop the league. And then you have a player standing up and saying, if that is the decision, then I'm out of this. Now, the question is, what will be the implications for his career? He's still 32. Yeah. Will it affect his career? The season is so uncertain. You know, what's going to happen hereafter. But apparently, he doesn't seem to care. And he seems to have a reputation for speaking the truth to power. And you know, he had problems when he was captain of the Super Eagles, because he was always, you know, objecting to certain decisions by the NFF. It made him popular with his teammates and with fans, but the gerontocrats in charge of NFF at the time didn't like it. So I see a man who has been very consistent. This may mark the beginning of his retirement, but I'm sure that, you know, for him to have taken this decision, to say life is more important than football, which is what all of us are saying. Life is more important than going to the cemetery, than ending up in the grave. And he has received support from a number of his colleagues, Didier Drogba, Patrick Pascal, and others. But as for Nigeria banning competitions and all that, that's perfectly in order. That's what we all want.
I just think they should have banned yesterday's matches as well, because honestly speaking, there was already an outbreak and they hadn't put a ban on yesterday's matches. They still went on. The NFF media officer that came here to speak to us also said that there wasn't going to be any screening for any sorts of health issues at the stadiums. So I think we should still be a bit worried, but I mean, it is a good move.
Yeah, but will it affect our participation at the Tokyo Olympics if we don't take part in the preparatory?
But Nigeria is not the only country in this very peculiar situation. It's cut across several sporting disciplines and several sporting federations around the world. So the fact that Nigeria is not participating is in line, like you just said, in line with what is now the world's accepted practice. Because at this moment in time, we have to prioritize life over, because certainly people want to always pamper the sentiments about sports and the fact that monies have actually put out. Because as we still speak,
thank you very much.
The Olympics is still going on, and it will still go on, at least that we know.
So the IOC insists, yes.
We'll see.